Humanity had always believed it was destined for the stars. For centuries, Earth had looked up at the night sky with wonder, imagining what life might exist beyond its fragile blue shell. The dream had never been merely to explore, but to belong. When the first interstellar travel ships finally cut through the void, it seemed that dream had become reality. Humanity had made its way into the Galactic Council, the vast assembly of civilizations that had ruled the stars for tens of thousands of years. The Council was a place where age and wisdom carried weight, where every race's history was etched into its laws, and where the newcomers were often tested, sometimes cruelly, to prove they belonged. At first, humans were treated as curiosities. Their ships were clunky by alien standards, their technology primitive, their customs odd. But humans had one advantage the Council had not anticipated. They learned fast, adapted faster, and refused to yield. Within a few short decades, human fleets began to match the speed and firepower of older civilizations. Colonies on Mars, Titan, and the outer moons became thriving centers of industry, capable of producing advanced ships and weaponry independently. Where other races relied on careful planning and long lifespans, humans relied on instinct, creativity, and a relentless drive to overcome any obstacle. It was thrilling for humans, but terrifying for the Council. The older races had grown comfortable in their dominance, their power unchallenged. They had seen centuries of conflicts end predictably, with their civilizations always in control. Humanity upset that balance. Every success humans achieved, meanwhile a pirate ring dismantled in a matter of hours, a hostile planet brought into peaceful negotiation through sheer ingenuity, an experimental engine that cut travel time by months. It reminded the Council how unpredictable and dangerous this young species had become. The tension reached a breaking point when human forces intervened in a border conflict that involved a minor Council species. Humans did not ask for permission, they did not consult the Council, they simply acted. Their fleets neutralized the threat, protected civilians, and in the process exposed the weakness of some of the Council's supposedly untouchable allies. The Council convened emergency sessions. Diplomatic envoys were called. Warnings were sent. Humanity was asked, politely at first, then sharply on to stop interfering. But humans did not stop. Their leaders argued that they could not watch helplessly while others suffered. They believed in action, in responsibility, and defending what was right. Fear and admiration grew in equal measure within the Council chambers. Some members quietly argued that humanity could become an ally too valuable to ban. Others argued that humans were reckless, dangerous, and far too strong for their own good. The younger species' successes were met with whispers of concern. "They will dominate everything if left unchecked," one elder species remarked, its tone heavy with warning. The debates grew heated, and eventually the decision came. Humanity was banned. They were not expelled violently. No fleets were destroyed, no colonies razed. Instead, the Council's decree was bureaucratic and absolute. Humans were forbidden from participating in any Council trade agreements, barred from interstellar diplomatic missions, and restricted from claiming or settling planets already recognized by the Council. The official reasoning spoke of instability, reckless influence, and the need to protect the balance of galactic order. But behind the words, the truth was clear. The Council feared humans. They feared what they could not control. When the news reached Earth and the outer colonies, the reaction was mixed. Many humans were shocked. How could a species that had achieved so much, that had proven its strength and innovation, suddenly be considered a threat? Some governments fell into panic. Trade shortages appeared, colonies struggled to maintain supplies, and older alliances began to crumble. People argued bitterly about what to do next. Should humans plead for reconsideration, apologize for perceived transgressions, or retreat entirely from galactic affairs? But not everyone saw despair in this setback. Among the leaders, scientists, and strategists who had shaped humanity's first decades in space, a spark of determination began to grow. The ban could have been a full stop, a limit on humanity's dreams, but instead they saw it as an opportunity. If the Council would not recognize humanity, then humanity would recognize itself. If the galaxy would not allow humans a place among its rules, then humans would create their own. Out of exile, they decided a new path could be forged. In the early years after the ban, life was difficult. Supplies were scarce. Interstellar trade became illegal, and tensions within human colonies grew. Governments debated constantly, and some argued for compromise or even retreat. But the majority chose resilience. Engineers worked tirelessly to develop new technologies that would allow humans to survive independently. Pilots mapped uncharted regions of space, searching for planets and systems that the Council had ignored. Scientists experimented with energy, propulsion, and medicine, often taking risks that other species considered reckless. And through it all, ordinary humans, farmers, miners, workers, and students, kept pushing forward, knowing that their survival depended not on permission, but on their own ingenuity and effort. It was during this time that the idea of unity began to take hold. Scattered colonies and fleets had always functioned independently, connected loosely by shared heritage and communication networks. But now, under the pressure of the Council's ban, humans began to see the value of coordination. A council of their own was formed, not to beg for recognition, but to organize, plan, and build a future where humans would no longer be subject to the whims of an older, fearful galaxy. They called it the Assembly of Humanity, a body dedicated to survival, progress, and self-determination. Young leaders emerged from the chaos, ordinary humans who had never expected to shape the fate of an entire species. Their voices were bold, their ideas unconventional. They encouraged colonies to innovate, to experiment, to think beyond the limitations imposed by the Council. They emphasized courage, responsibility, and the belief that humanity's strength lay in its people, not in the approval of alien powers. Under their guidance, humans began to reclaim control over their destiny. Despite the hardship, there were moments of triumph. Colonies on distant planets began producing enough food, energy, and materials to sustain themselves. Engineers on orbital stations built new propulsion systems that allowed faster travel through uncharted space. Scientists experimented with terraforming, slowly transforming barren worlds into livable habitats. Humans were learning, adapting, and thriving, often in ways that the Council could never have anticipated. And yet the Council continued to watch. Reports of human progress reached its chambers, often accompanied by murmurs of fear. "They are beyond our control," one ambassador said. "They are learning too fast. They are unbound." Other species nodded, some in awe, others in dread. For the first time in recorded history, a young species had not only survived the scrutiny of the galaxy's oldest powers, but had begun to outpace them. Through it all, humans remained remarkably human. They argued, laughed, cried, and celebrated their victories. They made mistakes, some catastrophic, some trivial, but they always learned from them. Unlike the older races, whose caution often bordered on stagnation, humans embraced failure as part of progress. It was this combination of resilience, creativity, and unyielding determination that allowed them to survive the Council's ban and set the stage for something greater. A future not dictated by fear, but by the limitless potential of human will. By the time the first decade of exile had passed, humanity had done more than survive. They had proven that they could thrive on their own terms. The Council had hoped to contain them, to limit their influence. Instead, it had sparked a revolution in human thinking. Across the stars, colonies began to speak of not returning to the Council, but of charting a course entirely their own. The dream of belonging had shifted. It was no longer about recognition from the galaxy. It was about creating a place in the stars that was truly, unmistakably human. And in that moment, despite the fear, the chaos, and the uncertainty, humanity smiled. For the first time, they realized that being banned was not the end. It was the beginning. The first few years after the Council's ban had been harsh, but they had taught humanity a vital lesson. Survival depended on unity and determination. The colonies, once loosely connected, began to see themselves as part of a single shared destiny. It was no longer enough to focus on individual settlements or isolated systems. Humans needed a plan, a vision, and the courage to follow it. That realization sparked conversations that would change the future of every human colony. At first, these discussions were chaotic. Every colony had its own culture, resources, and priorities. Some had struggled with food shortages, others with failing energy systems, while some simply lacked enough ships to maintain contact with others. Leaders argued endlessly about what to do first, but the chaos carried a spark of creativity. Ideas were shared openly, no suggestion was dismissed, and slowly a plan emerged. The plan was simple in principle but ambitious in practice. Humanity would survive without the Council, thrive on its own, and eventually claim a place in the galaxy that was entirely its own. The first step was communication. Colonies scattered across the solar system and beyond began to link their networks, creating faster-than-ever communication systems. Engineers worked day and night to develop satellites and relay stations, ensuring that news, discoveries, and warnings could travel quickly from one colony to another. Messages were no longer delayed by months. Updates could reach every human settlement in days. This newfound connectivity made collaboration possible on a scale humanity had never seen before. Ideas traveled as fast as ships, and colonies began to learn from each other at a rapid pace. Next came resource management. Humans had to survive with what they had, without help from the galaxy. Teams of scientists and engineers studied every planet and moon they inhabited, finding ways to grow food in harsh environments, recycle water and air efficiently, and produce energy from local materials. They experimented with underground farms, solar arrays, and artificial ecosystems. Failure was common. Crops failed, systems broke, experiments went wrong, but humans did not give up. Each setback was a lesson, and slowly colonies became self-sufficient. They learned how to rely on their ingenuity rather than hoping for help from anyone else. The most exciting and inspiring part of this period was innovation. Being banned forced humans to think differently. They were no longer trying to match the technology of older civilizations. They were trying to exceed it. Engineers designed faster engines, compact energy cores, and modular ships that could be repaired almost anywhere in space. Scientists explored new ways to extract minerals from asteroids, develop medicines from alien plants, and even manipulate gravity for practical use. What other civilizations had spent centuries studying, humans managed to understand in decades, often through trial, error, and a determination that the older races could not comprehend. Amid all this progress, the human spirit remained central. Ordinary people became heroes in ways that history would remember for generations. Farmers who learned to cultivate alien soil, engineers who patched engines in the middle of deep space, pilots who risked everything to deliver supplies. These people were the heart of humanity's survival. There were no grand titles, no ceremonial recognition. The value of each person was measured in courage, creativity, and commitment. These human stories spread quickly across colonies, inspiring hope and motivating others to take risks, push boundaries, and never give up. While humans were focused on survival and growth, they also began to develop a new sense of identity. The Council had treated them as a threat, as something dangerous that needed to be contained. In response, humans decided to define themselves on their own terms. Their assemblies discussed what it meant to be human in a galaxy that feared them. They embraced qualities that had brought them success: adaptability, courage, collaboration, and an unyielding drive to improve. Humanity began to see its own culture not just as a product of Earth, but as a philosophy for thriving in the universe. This identity gave humans confidence, guiding every decision and every step into uncharted space. One particularly challenging issue was defense. The Council had banned humans partly because they had grown too strong too quickly. Humans needed to ensure that nothing could stop them from surviving. But they also did not want to provoke conflict unnecessarily. Fleets were organized not for conquest, but for protection. Ships were designed to be fast, versatile, and capable of operating independently or together in large formations. Pilots trained relentlessly, mastering maneuvers and strategies that older civilizations had taken centuries to perfect. Humans learned to anticipate threats, avoid unnecessary fights, and respond swiftly when danger appeared. By focusing on readiness rather than aggression, humanity balanced strength with wisdom. Trade between colonies became another area of focus. With the Council blocking interstellar trade, humans developed their own supply networks. Planets and moons that had specialized resources learned to share with others. Minerals from the asteroid belt were sent to outer colonies for construction. Food from fertile settlements was delivered to harsh environments. Knowledge, research, and discoveries traveled faster than ever. These networks built trust, strengthened communities, and demonstrated that humans could succeed without relying on older civilizations. The sense of independence became a source of pride for every colonist. Through these efforts, humans began to see the seeds of something greater. The Council's ban had been intended to limit their growth, but it had inadvertently brought humanity together. Colonies that once felt isolated now operated as part of a vast cooperative system. Humans were no longer defined by Earth, by politics, or by the limits imposed by older races. They were defined by their collective ability to survive, innovate, and thrive against all odds. The exile that had seemed like punishment was, in reality, the catalyst for their transformation. Alongside these practical steps, humans also began exploring new frontiers. They sent ships into uncharted space, mapping regions that had never been seen by any civilization. Some of these missions were dangerous. Ships were lost, crews vanished, and mysteries remained unsolved. But humans did not stop. Curiosity, ambition, and the drive to expand their understanding of the universe kept explorers moving forward. Each new discovery became a testament to human courage and creativity, inspiring others to continue the journey and proving that no challenge was too great for humanity. As time passed, a new leadership emerged. It was not centralized in one location or dominated by one government. Instead, leaders arose from different colonies chosen for their skill, wisdom, and dedication rather than wealth or birthright. These leaders worked together to coordinate projects, solve crises, and ensure that every human settlement had the resources and support it needed. Decisions were made collectively, with input from scientists, engineers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens. This system encouraged collaboration, accountability, and innovation. It also reinforced the core human value of resilience, the belief that people could achieve extraordinary things when they worked together. Amid all this growth and preparation, humans never lost their sense of community. Celebrations, festivals, and shared traditions continued, even in space. Stories of past struggles, victories, and heroic acts were passed down from colony to colony. Music, art, and literature flourished, giving humans a sense of continuity and culture that extended beyond survival. In the cold, dark expanse of space, these cultural connections reminded humans that they were not just surviving. They were living, thriving, and creating a shared identity that no council ban could erase. By the end of this period, humanity had accomplished something remarkable. They had turned adversity into opportunity. They had united colonies scattered across light years of space, built networks of trade and communication, developed advanced technology, and fostered a culture of courage, creativity, and resilience. They had done all this without recognition, permission, or approval from any older civilization. In fact, the council that had tried to limit them had only made them stronger, more cohesive, and more determined to control their own destiny. And yet, despite their progress, humans remained humble in one sense. They knew that the galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, and far more complex than any one species could fully understand. This humility did not weaken them, it strengthened them. It inspired careful planning, continuous learning, and a willingness to listen to the experiences and knowledge of others. Humans had not only survived exile, they had transformed it into a period of growth, innovation, and preparation for the future. It was clear to everyone who looked at the colonies, fleets, and networks that humans were no longer the species the Council had underestimated. They were becoming a force defined not by fear, but by ingenuity, courage, and cooperation. Every ship that left a colony for new worlds, every discovery that expanded human knowledge, every project that brought distant settlements closer together, reinforced the truth: humans could not be contained. They had been banned by the Council, but that ban had only forced them to rise. The story of human survival, ingenuity, and determination was just beginning, and already it promised a future that no one, not even the Council, could ignore. Humanity had survived exile. It had learned to thrive, adapt, and grow stronger. But surviving was no longer enough. Humans wanted more. They wanted to build something lasting, something that would belong entirely to them. The idea of forming a new human-led organization, a civilization independent of the Galactic Council, began to take shape. It was an ambitious dream, almost impossible by any measure. But humans were not afraid of impossibility. They had already faced challenges that older civilizations would have considered unsurmountable. The first step was organization. Humans spread across planets, moons, and space stations needed a central plan. They created councils, not to imitate the old Galactic Council, but to coordinate efforts across the stars. These councils were unusual because they valued skill over status, action over titles, and ideas over tradition. Anyone with insight, experience, or vision could contribute. Scientists, engineers, pilots, farmers, and soldiers all had voices. This structure allowed decisions to be made quickly and effectively, and it encouraged innovation at every level. It also gave people a sense of ownership. Humans were not just surviving. They were building something together. Building a dominion required resources. Humans began to establish self-sufficient colonies, capable of producing everything they needed without relying on older civilizations. They mined asteroids for metals, refined gases from distant moons, and developed energy systems that could operate independently for decades. Engineers designed ships that were versatile and easy to maintain, capable of exploration, trade, and defense. Colonies specialized in what they could do best. Some produced food, others built ships, and some focused on research. By sharing knowledge and resources, humans created a network of interdependent systems, each colony supporting the others. Exploration became the heart of humanity's new mission. Humans had already mapped parts of space unknown to the Council, but now they pushed farther. Teams of explorers traveled beyond the familiar systems, discovering planets and moons that were unclaimed or forgotten. Some planets were harsh and inhospitable, but humans learned to adapt. They built habitats underground, in domes, or even floating in oceans of strange chemicals. Each new discovery became an opportunity, a potential home or a resource hub for the growing Dominion. The Dominion was not just about survival, it was about identity. Humans wanted their civilization to reflect their strengths, adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. Unlike the older species, humans did not fear failure. Mistakes were lessons, not disasters. If a colony failed to thrive on a planet, humans would move, try again, and refine their methods. Every setback was a chance to improve, and every success reinforced the belief that humans could achieve what no other species had done. Defense was a key part of the plan. The Galactic Council had feared humans because they were strong and unpredictable. Humans had learned from this fear, designing fleets that could protect colonies, explore new regions safely, and deter threats. Ships were fast, maneuverable, and equipped with advanced technology created from human ingenuity. Pilots trained endlessly, learning strategies and tactics that older civilizations had perfected over centuries. But humans also understood restraint. They did not seek conflict. They prepared for it, knowing that strength without wisdom could be dangerous. Trade and communication networks continued to expand. The more humans shared knowledge and resources, the stronger they became. Planets that produced rare minerals sent supplies to colonies that needed construction materials. Food from fertile worlds traveled to harsher settlements. Information about new discoveries, experiments, and potential dangers circulated quickly. These networks created trust, cooperation, and a sense of unity among humans scattered across the stars. Humanity's independence grew stronger with every exchange. As colonies grew and technology advanced, humans began to think beyond survival. They wanted to create a culture, a civilization that reflected their values. Education became central. Young humans were taught not only science and engineering, but also ethics, leadership, and problem-solving. Stories of heroism, innovation, and resilience were shared across colonies to inspire new generations. Humans learned that a strong civilization required more than technology. It required a shared sense of purpose and identity. One of the most significant changes was how humans approached leadership. There were no kings, emperors, or rulers who inherited power. Leadership was earned through skill, insight, and courage. Those who showed vision and effectiveness were given responsibility. Councils made collective decisions, but leaders were respected for their ability to act decisively. This approach encouraged people to contribute their best, knowing that merit mattered more than status. It also created flexibility, allowing the Dominion to respond quickly to challenges and opportunities. Humans also embraced innovation in everyday life. Colonists developed new ways to grow food in extreme environments, recycle water and air, and generate energy from local materials. Engineers built modular ships that could be repaired anywhere. Scientists experimented with terraforming barren worlds, slowly transforming them into habitable settlements. These innovations were not just technical achievements, they were symbols of humanity's resilience and creativity. Each success strengthened the belief that humans could survive and thrive without help from the Galactic Council. Exploration missions became daring and ambitious. Humans sent ships into uncharted space, mapping unknown regions, studying strange phenomena, and sometimes encountering dangerous conditions. Crews faced extreme radiation, deadly storms, and hostile wildlife. Some ships were lost and crews vanished without a trace. But humans did not give up. Each failure taught lessons that improved technology, strategies, and survival techniques. Exploration became a core value of the Dominion, representing courage, curiosity, and the drive to expand knowledge. Despite the focus on survival, technology, and exploration, humans maintained their humanity. They celebrated victories, mourned losses, and cherished culture. Music, art, and literature flourished, giving people a sense of identity and continuity. Stories of courage and innovation were shared across colonies to inspire others. Festivals and traditions, even in space, reminded humans that their civilization was not just about survival. It was about living fully, creating meaning, and building connections between people across vast distances. Over time, humans began to establish a network of colonies that functioned like a single, interconnected civilization. Resources, knowledge, and people moved between settlements. Each colony had autonomy but shared a common vision and goal. This network became the foundation of what would eventually be called the Dominion. It was not a simple government. It was a living, adaptive civilization that valued cooperation, innovation, and human potential. Every person had a role, every contribution mattered, and every challenge was an opportunity to grow. The Dominion was not only about creating a new civilization, it was also a statement. Humans had been banned by the Galactic Council to limit their influence, but the Dominion proved that humans could thrive independently. It showed that exclusion and fear could not stop determination and ingenuity. Every colony, every fleet, every innovation reinforced the idea that humans were capable of shaping their destiny on their own terms. By the end of this period, humanity had accomplished something extraordinary. They had united colonies across vast distances, built self-sufficient systems, developed advanced technology, created education and culture, and established leadership based on merit. They had explored unknown regions, prepared defenses, and forged a shared identity that no ban or restriction could erase. The Dominion was no longer a dream, it was becoming reality. Humans knew the path ahead would be difficult. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and unknown civilizations, but the Dominion had given them a foundation of strength, unity, and purpose. Humans had proven that they could survive exile, innovate under pressure, and build a civilization from scratch. The future was theirs to shape, and already it promised to be extraordinary. In the quiet moments when colonists looked up at the stars, they could see the enormity of what they were building. The Dominion was not just a collection of colonies, it was a testament to human courage, creativity, and determination. Every ship launched, every planet settled, every discovery made was a step toward a future defined not by fear, but by the limitless potential of humanity. And in that realization, humans smiled. For the first time, they understood that being banned by the Council was not punishment. It had been the spark that forced them to unite, innovate, and create something that would endure long after the Council had faded from memory. Humanity had begun forming its own dominion, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them from rising. As humanity's dominion began to take shape, it became clear that the galaxy was watching. The older civilizations of the Galactic Council had initially dismissed humans as a minor threat, assuming exile would limit their growth. They had expected humanity to struggle without their guidance and support. Yet reports kept arriving from the edges of explored space, human colonies thriving, fleets patrolling new systems, and explorers discovering resources and habitable worlds at a pace that even the most advanced Council species could not match. The Council began to feel an unease that grew into quiet alarm. Humans, however, paid little attention to the Council's reactions. Their focus was on survival, growth, and exploration. They had learned long ago that waiting for permission was a waste of time. Instead, they acted decisively. Colonies began building larger fleets not for conquest but for protection and rapid response. Ships could move faster than before. Equipped with engines that harnessed new energy technologies developed from human research, crews were trained to operate independently, think quickly, and adapt to situations no one could have predicted. The goal was simple. Humans would safeguard themselves and their new civilization without relying on outsiders. Trade and cooperation among colonies became increasingly complex. Humans realized that as their dominion grew, so would the challenges. Systems far from each other needed not only supplies but coordination to handle emergencies, scientific projects, and defense. They developed communication hubs across star systems that could relay information almost instantly. Knowledge, discoveries, and warnings traveled faster than ever, allowing colonies to respond quickly to new opportunities or threats. This interconnectedness strengthened the Dominion and gave humans confidence that their efforts were building something truly lasting. Exploration missions reached farther into uncharted space than ever before. Humans were no longer limited to nearby star systems. They began mapping regions that no other species had considered worth the risk. Some of these missions were dangerous. Ships encountered asteroid fields, extreme radiation storms, and planets with unpredictable environments. Entire crews sometimes vanished without a trace. But humans did not see these as failures, they were lessons. Each mission taught new ways to build ships, survive harsh conditions, and navigate unknown territories. Over time, humans developed skills and technology that made them pioneers unlike any other species. The Dominion also became a place where creativity and culture thrived alongside technology. Colonies shared stories of courage and innovation, inspiring other humans across the stars. Music, art, and literature were celebrated, creating connections that stretched across light years. Humans understood that a strong civilization was not just about survival or technology. It was about identity and shared purpose. Even in the harshest environments, people found ways to express themselves and maintain traditions, reminding everyone that they were not just surviving, they were living. As the Dominion grew, humans began to encounter other species that had previously ignored them. Some alien races were cautious, curious, or even hostile. Unlike humans, many of these civilizations had remained stagnant for centuries, relying on tradition rather than innovation. Humans treated these encounters carefully. They did not seek to dominate, but they were prepared to defend themselves if necessary. Diplomacy, trade, and sometimes cautious alliances were established with independent species. Humans learned quickly which partners could be trusted and which posed risks. These early interactions taught them valuable lessons in strategy, negotiation, and survival. Defense remained a central concern. The Galactic Council's fear of humanity had always stemmed from their potential strength, and humans understood why. They continued to build fleets capable of protecting the Dominion against any threat. Ships were versatile, crews were trained to handle multiple roles, and technology allowed humans to operate far from home without losing efficiency. Training programs emphasized adaptability and problem-solving, ensuring that every individual could respond effectively to unpredictable situations. Over time, the Dominion became not only self-sufficient but also secure, with colonies prepared to handle emergencies and fleets ready to respond to threats across vast distances. The older species of the Council continued to watch, sometimes sending envoys or observers hoping to understand humanity's rapid progress. But humans were no longer the young, uncertain species the Council had first encountered. Humans had a clear purpose, a unified vision, and the ability to act decisively. They had proven that exile could not stop them, and every new success reinforced that reality. The Council's attempts to monitor or influence the Dominion were largely ineffective. Humanity's strength, cooperation, and adaptability had created a system that was independent and resilient. Within the Dominion, humans developed a sense of pride and unity. They were no longer defined by Earth or by the opinions of older civilizations. Their identity came from their achievements, their cooperation, and their shared vision of what humanity could become. Colonies celebrated progress, innovation, and bravery. Ordinary people, engineers, scientists, pilots, farmers, and teachers were recognized for their contributions. These stories of courage and determination spread across the stars, inspiring new generations and reinforcing the values that had made humans successful. Science and technology continued to advance rapidly. Humans explored new energy sources, experimented with terraforming, and developed medical treatments that could save lives in extreme environments. Research on communication, propulsion, and materials allowed ships and colonies to operate in ways that older civilizations had considered impossible. Each discovery reinforced the belief that humans could thrive independently, creating a civilization that reflected their strengths rather than the rules of the Council. Despite the growth and success, humans remained cautious. They understood that the galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and home to civilizations that might not welcome their presence. Strategic planning, risk assessment, and careful preparation became standard practices. The Dominion was not reckless. It was strong, capable, and ready. Humans had learned from their exile that survival required foresight, cooperation, and the willingness to act boldly when necessary. As the Dominion expanded, humans began to think long-term. Colonies were established on planets that could support future generations. Fleets were built to explore and protect these new territories. Scientists and engineers worked to develop technologies that would allow humans to thrive, even in the most distant and hostile regions of space. Education and culture were emphasized to ensure that future generations would inherit not only technology and resources but also the values that had made humanity successful. The Dominion was no longer just a reaction to exile. It had become a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and unity. Every colony, every fleet, every discovery reinforced the idea that humans could create a civilization entirely on their own terms. The Galactic Council may have tried to limit humanity, but the Dominion had proven that exclusion could not stop determination and creativity. Humans were no longer defined by fear. They were defined by their potential and their achievements. Encounters with other civilizations continued to test humans' abilities. Some species attempted to challenge or intimidate the Dominion, believing humans were inexperienced or reckless. Humans responded with careful strategy and decisive action. They did not seek unnecessary conflict, but they defended themselves and their colonies with skill and precision. Over time, the Dominion gained a reputation as a force to be respected, capable, disciplined, and unafraid to assert itself when necessary. Even as humans expanded, they maintained connections between colonies. Communication networks, supply chains, and shared knowledge ensured that no colony was isolated. People from different worlds collaborated on projects, shared innovations, and supported one another in times of crisis. This cooperation reinforced the unity of the Dominion, making it stronger and more resilient than any single colony could have been on its own. The human spirit remained at the center of every achievement. Ordinary people became heroes through their courage, creativity, and dedication. Farmers who grew food in harsh environments, engineers who repaired critical systems in orbit, pilots who explored unknown space. Each contribution was valued and celebrated. These stories were shared across colonies, inspiring hope and determination in every human heart. By the end of this period, the Dominion had become a thriving, self-sufficient, and united civilization. Humans had turned exile into opportunity, isolation into collaboration, and challenges into achievements. The Galactic Council's attempt to limit humanity had failed spectacularly. The Dominion was proof that humans could survive, innovate, and build a civilization entirely on their own. The galaxy was watching. Older civilizations could no longer ignore the rise of humanity. Fleets, colonies, and exploration missions demonstrated strength, innovation, and unity that had once seemed impossible. Humans had proven that exile had not weakened them. It had made them stronger, smarter, and more determined. Every achievement reinforced the reality that the Dominion was a force to be reckoned with, one that would shape the future of the galaxy in ways no one could ignore. In quiet moments, as humanity's dominion grew, it became impossible to ignore the galaxy's attention. News of human colonies thriving in previously unclaimed regions, fleets exploring unknown space, and innovations that surpassed the old civilizations reached even the most distant council chambers. For centuries, the Galactic Council had believed it controlled the stars. They thought they could maintain order, balance power, and shape the destiny of younger species. Humanity was about to prove them wrong. The first signs of challenge appeared quietly. Reports came from border systems of a new threat, an aggressive species that had never been seen in council records. They were raiders, attacking isolated outposts, stripping resources and disappearing into uncharted space before anyone could respond. Older civilizations feared them, seeing them as a danger to their established systems, but many were too slow, cautious, or rigid to act effectively. Humans, however, responded differently. Their colonies were ready, fleets were prepared, and their decentralized communication networks allowed information to travel instantly. They acted before the raiders could strike again. The human response was decisive. Fleets were dispatched immediately to affected systems, coordinating with nearby colonies to protect civilians, secure resources, and establish early warning systems. Humans had learned the importance of preparation and adaptability. Every ship, every crew, and every command station was connected. They shared knowledge of the raiders' patterns, weaknesses, and behaviors, allowing humans to anticipate attacks and strike effectively. Where older civilizations had hesitated for months, humans acted in hours. The Dominion's fleets were unlike anything the raiders or council had seen. Ships were not only fast and heavily armed, they were flexible. Crews could operate independently or in coordinated squadrons, adapting strategies on the fly. Pilots were trained to think critically, make decisions under pressure, and improvise when technology failed or conditions changed. Every encounter with the raiders taught new lessons. Humans refined tactics, improved ships, and strengthened colonies. The Dominion became a force that could respond to threats across vast distances, projecting both speed and power with unmatched precision. Despite the focus on defense, humans maintained their ethics. They did not seek revenge or conquest. Their goal was to protect their people, secure their colonies, and restore stability. They avoided unnecessary conflict and used strategy to neutralize threats efficiently. Even when raiders attempted bold attacks on populated worlds, human crews responded with restraint, using non-lethal force when possible and focusing on ending the threat quickly. This approach earned humans respect from neighboring civilizations, some of which began to consider alliances, trade, and cooperation with the Dominion. The Dominion's success was not limited to military operations. The crisis forced humans to innovate further. Colonies developed advanced sensor systems to detect threats at greater distances. Engineers improved propulsion systems to allow rapid deployment across hundreds of light years. Scientists experimented with new materials and energy sources to create ships that could endure prolonged battles or extreme conditions. Every technological breakthrough reinforced the Dominion's ability to protect itself and others, creating a feedback loop of progress and preparation that older civilizations could not match. As humans expanded their presence, they also strengthened diplomacy. They reached out to independent alien species, offering assistance against raiders, sharing knowledge, and building trust. Some species were cautious, having witnessed the Council's attempts to control younger civilizations. Others were impressed by humans' ability to act decisively and ethically. Alliances formed slowly but steadily, expanding the Dominion's influence and creating a network of mutual protection. Humans learned the value of cooperation while maintaining independence, showing that strength could coexist with diplomacy. The human approach to leadership proved crucial during this period. Decisions were made collectively, with input from scientists, engineers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens. Leaders emerged based on skill and experience rather than status or wealth. This system allowed for quick, effective decision-making while ensuring that the best ideas were implemented. Colonists felt involved, responsible, and invested in the Dominion's success. The result was a society where individuals understood the importance of their contributions and were motivated to act boldly, knowing that their efforts had tangible impact. Throughout this period, human culture continued to flourish. Music, art, and literature served as reminders of identity and purpose. Stories of courage, innovation, and heroism were shared widely, inspiring colonists and crews across the Dominion. Festivals, celebrations, and traditions were maintained even on distant worlds, creating a sense of unity and continuity. This cultural cohesion strengthened morale, fostered loyalty, and reminded humans why they were building something greater than survival. They were creating a civilization that reflected their values. As the Dominion stabilized, humans began to recognize their own power. They were no longer a species struggling to survive. They were a civilization capable of shaping their destiny and influencing the galaxy. The Raider crisis had proven that humans could act faster, smarter, and more effectively than older civilizations. Colonists now felt confident that the Dominion could endure even the most severe challenges. This confidence fueled further innovation, exploration, and expansion, creating momentum that carried humanity into new regions of space. Despite these successes, humans remained vigilant. They knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and threats could emerge at any time. The Dominion invested heavily in intelligence, mapping unknown regions and monitoring potential dangers. Humans trained constantly, refined strategies, and developed contingency plans. Preparation was a core value, ensuring that the Dominion would not be caught off guard again. Lessons from exile and early crises were deeply ingrained in human planning and culture, shaping decisions for generations to come. The Galactic Council observed these developments with a mixture of concern and admiration. They had intended to limit humanity, but the Dominion had proven resilient, resourceful, and remarkably capable. Council members began to realize that humans could no longer be ignored, controlled, or underestimated. Humans had acted decisively when the Council hesitated, built a thriving civilization independently, and demonstrated strategic, technological, and cultural strength far beyond what had been expected. As the Raider threat was neutralized, humans began to rebuild and strengthen affected colonies. Infrastructure was repaired, systems upgraded, and fleets reinforced. Colonies learned from each encounter, improving defenses, emergency response, and coordination. Every challenge became an opportunity to grow stronger, to innovate, and to demonstrate the value of unity and collaboration. The Dominion had transformed crises into opportunities, proving that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, learn, and act decisively. The Raider crisis also solidified humanity's reputation. Neighboring civilizations, once skeptical or dismissive, began to respect the Dominion. They saw a civilization that could respond effectively to threats, protect its people, and expand responsibly. Some sought alliances, trade agreements, or shared research projects. Humans learned to navigate these interactions with wisdom, balancing openness with independence, and showing that strength could be combined with ethics and collaboration. Colonists took pride in their achievements. They celebrated victories, shared stories of courage, and recognized individuals who had contributed to the Dominion's success. Engineers, pilots, scientists, and ordinary citizens were honored for their ingenuity, bravery, and dedication. These celebrations strengthened morale, encouraged participation, and reminded humans why they had endured exile and hardship in the first place. Humanity was building not just a civilization, but a legacy. By the end of this period, the Dominion had reached a new level of maturity. Humans had faced their first major galactic challenge and emerged stronger, more united and more capable than ever. They had demonstrated their ability to act decisively, innovate under pressure, and protect their civilization with skill and integrity. The Galactic Council's fear and caution were justified. Humanity had become a force that could no longer be underestimated. Humans looked to the stars with confidence and determination. They had survived exile, built a thriving civilization, faced threats, and proven their capability to themselves and others. The Dominion was no longer an experiment or a fledgling society. It was a powerful, resilient, and innovative civilization ready to shape the galaxy on its own terms. And as humans gazed toward distant systems, they understood something profound. The challenges they faced had strengthened them, united them, and given them purpose. The Dominion was more than survival or defense. It was proof that humanity could rise above any obstacle, adapt to any situation, and create a future defined by courage, creativity, and determination. The stars were no longer distant dreams. They were opportunities waiting to be claimed. Humans were ready to explore, expand, and thrive. The Dominion had proven itself in crisis, and its people knew that the galaxy would soon recognize what they already understood. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, a civilization capable of shaping its. Humanity had come a long way since the Galactic Council had banned them. From exile and uncertainty, humans had grown into a civilization capable of thriving across countless worlds. The Dominion was no longer a fledgling network of colonies. It had become a living, breathing civilization with fleets, colonies, technology, and culture that reflected the best of human ingenuity and resilience. Every person, every innovation, and every achievement had contributed to the foundation of something far greater than survival. The first years of the Dominion had been about proving that humans could survive. The second stage had been about organizing, exploring, and uniting colonies into a cohesive civilization. Now, humans faced the challenge of cementing their place in the galaxy. They wanted more than survival. They wanted recognition, stability, and the ability to shape their destiny without fear. The Dominion had grown strong enough to do so, but the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of civilizations that did not always welcome newcomers. Humans began by strengthening the bonds within their own civilization. Communication networks were expanded, allowing instantaneous sharing of knowledge, discoveries, and warnings across light years. Colonies were organized into sectors, each with specialized roles: research, defense, production, exploration, and education. People were trained not just to perform tasks, but to innovate, think critically, and take initiative. The Dominion was designed to be resilient, adaptable, and prepared for any challenge the galaxy might present. Exploration remained central to the Dominion's growth. Humans sent fleets and teams farther than ever before, discovering habitable planets, resource-rich systems, and strange phenomena that no other species had mapped. These missions were dangerous. Ships encountered hostile environments, unpredictable gravitational anomalies, and unfamiliar species. Yet humans approached each challenge with the same courage and ingenuity that had defined them since the first exile. Every success expanded the Dominion's reach, and every setback became a lesson that strengthened future efforts. Trade and resource management were critical to solidifying the Dominion. Humans ensured that every colony had what it needed to thrive. Food, energy, and raw materials moved across vast distances through coordinated networks. While knowledge and technology were shared freely, colonies specialized in their strengths. Some developed advanced medical technologies, others mastered agriculture on harsh worlds, and some focused on shipbuilding and engineering. This interdependence made the Dominion stronger, more efficient, and more united than any other civilization in the galaxy. Defense remained a priority, even in times of peace. Humans knew that the galaxy could be unpredictable, and that threats could emerge without warning. Fleets were maintained, ships upgraded, and crews trained to respond to emergencies quickly and decisively. Every colony had emergency protocols, and communication networks ensured that no settlement was ever truly isolated. This combination of readiness, innovation, and adaptability made the Dominion not only secure but respected by neighboring species. The Dominion also became a center of culture and education. Humans understood that a civilization was more than its technology or fleets. It was its people, values, and stories. Schools and training programs spread across colonies, teaching science, engineering, ethics, history, and leadership. Art, music, literature, and storytelling flourished even in space habitats and distant planets. Shared traditions and celebrations connected colonists across the stars, giving them a sense of belonging and purpose. Culture became a bond that strengthened the Dominion from within. Diplomacy with other civilizations became increasingly important. Humans reached out to independent species, offering assistance, trade, and cooperation. Some were cautious, having observed humanity's rapid rise with skepticism or fear. Others were impressed by the Dominion's organization, ethics, and willingness to act decisively when necessary. Alliances formed slowly but steadily, expanding the Dominion's influence without compromising its independence. Humans demonstrated that strength could coexist with diplomacy, showing other civilizations that the Dominion could be a reliable partner, not a threat. Technology continued to advance at an unprecedented pace. Humans developed faster engines, improved energy systems, advanced medical treatments, and terraforming techniques. Each breakthrough made the Dominion more capable, resilient, and independent. Exploration, defense, and daily life became more efficient and sustainable. Humans were not only surviving, they were thriving, innovating, and building a civilization that could endure for generations. The leadership of the Dominion evolved with its growth. Decision-making remained collective, valuing skill, insight, and results over titles or wealth. Leaders emerged based on merit, experience, and the ability to inspire others. This system allowed the Dominion to respond quickly to challenges while maintaining cohesion and trust. Colonists felt invested in their civilization because they knew their contributions mattered. Every success, innovation, and act of courage became a shared achievement, reinforcing unity and purpose. As the Dominion solidified, humans faced one final test, proving to the Galactic Council and the galaxy that they were no longer a fledgling, unpredictable species. Humans did not seek permission or approval, they acted through results. Colonies demonstrated self-sufficiency, fleets patrolled distant regions effectively, and explorers mapped and settled new worlds. Humans showed that they could manage complex systems, maintain security, foster culture, and innovate independently. Their achievements spoke louder than any words, demonstrating that the Dominion was a civilization that demanded respect. This period also highlighted the importance of ordinary humans. The Dominion's success was built on the courage, ingenuity, and dedication of farmers, engineers, scientists, pilots, and citizens. People who had once worried about survival now contributed to exploration, research, and governance. They repaired critical systems under pressure, grew food in harsh conditions, discovered new worlds, and trained future generations. These individuals became the backbone of the Dominion, proving that a civilization is only as strong as the people who build it. With each passing year, the Dominion expanded further into the galaxy. New colonies were established, fleets became more efficient, and systems were developed to share knowledge, resources, and innovation. Humans adapted to every environment, from frozen moons to deserts, oceans, and gas giants. Every challenge was an opportunity to learn, improve, and grow stronger. The Dominion was no longer a scattered collection of colonies. It was a coordinated, thriving civilization with a clear vision for the future. Humanity's story, once defined by exile and limitation, had transformed into one of achievement, resilience, and independence. The Dominion proved that humans could rise above adversity, innovate under pressure, and create a civilization that reflected the best qualities of their species. Every colony, fleet, and innovation reinforced the idea that humanity could shape its destiny. No ban, no threat, and no limitation could stop them. The Galactic Council, which had once feared humanity, could no longer ignore the Dominion. Older civilizations began to recognize that humans had created a new order in the galaxy, one that combined strength, innovation, ethics, and cooperation. Humans had not only survived exile, but had turned it into a launchpad for growth, proving that determination, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest obstacles. Within the Dominion, humans celebrated their achievements but remained focused on the future. They knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and new challenges would inevitably arise. Exploration, defense, diplomacy, and culture continued to evolve. Every colony, every fleet, and every individual contributed to the growth of the civilization. Humans had learned that lasting success required not just strength but adaptability, foresight, and collaboration. As humans looked to the stars, they understood the significance of what they had built. The Dominion was more than a civilization. It was a testament to human potential. It showed that adversity could inspire innovation, that independence could lead to unity, and that courage and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. The stars were no longer a distant dream. They were the canvas on which humanity was shaping its future. By the end of this period, the Dominion had become a permanent, respected presence in the galaxy. Humans had proven that they could survive exile, face threats, innovate, explore, and thrive independently. Their civilization was united, advanced, and resilient. The Dominion was not just a response to exclusion. It was a declaration that humanity would chart its own destiny, no matter the obstacles. And as humans gazed at the endless stars, they realized that the journey was only beginning. The Dominion had secured its foundation, but the galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, challenges, and opportunities. Humanity had shown that it could rise above fear, adapt to any situation, and build a civilization worthy of the stars. The future belonged to the Dominion, and humanity was ready to continue its journey, exploring, innovating, and thriving across the galaxy. The story of humanity had come full circle. From exile, fear, and doubt, humans had risen to create a civilization that no one could ignore. They had learned, grown, and proven that determination, ingenuity, and cooperation could overcome even the greatest challenges. The